Yeah, Terrifier. This is something I can get enthusiastic about. Welcome to my review recommendation video for 2016's Terrifier. Spoilers are on the way, by the way, so if you haven't seen this film, go and see it and come back. But I mean, with a lot of slashers, telling someone the plot is a bit like saying the sun will come up in the morning. So this one's actually a bit unpredictable, which I enjoyed. So it's worth saying a warning for spoilers. The first time I saw this film, I did feel it was something special. Not so much in terms of general acting or story or anything like that, but the clown, the character art, the clown, and specifically David Howard Thornton's performance and the humor of that, and the sound design, I felt all of that was pretty special. People complain that this film is just filling up time between deaths, between the killings, and that it's just an effects reel for the practical effects. But to be honest, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. The makers of this film were trying to make an old school slasher with a budget of, I think, about $35,000 to $50,000. So they were quite limited in what they could achieve. I know there are high concept films which are made for less that have more acclaim than this, but the point here was, I think, to introduce a new horror icon, new horror villain, not to make an intellectual film like Cosmos or some kind of psychological horror like the Blair Witch Project. As the question of whether it's an 80s throwback slasher, I don't really recall films from the 80s being this violent, to be honest. There are some violent kills in some of the films like The Mutilator and Nightmare on Elm Street, but I don't really recall this level of brutal gore back then. I was very young back then, but looking back on the films, they don't seem as gory as this. The gore here is more in line with neo-slashers, I would say, like Laid to Rest or the Hatchet films. I think the reason this gets called retro or throwback horror is because art, a couple of reasons basically. One is that art does behave in some ways a little bit like the 80s icon Freddy Krueger, and also because of the soundtrack being quite synth-based and dingy. Especially in Terrifier 2, I think, all the synth in that, and the title card, the font, the lightning strikes going off behind it, I think they're trying to be retro. So the franchise as a whole is thought of as being pretty retro, but the use of cell phones, the references to social media and the internet, they're all quite modern. So apart from some aspects of the feel, I don't see this as being a very retro film. It's more of a neo-slasher to me. But anyway, what's the story? So this story is basically, this is as simple as your inbred cousin that no one talks about. This is a simple story. I said it's unpredictable, which it is, but the story is simple. The way it goes is unpredictable though. So two friends called Tara and Dawn, they're out getting wrecked on Halloween, and they're in the street. They run into a clown, and then they run into him later when they decide to get some food because they need to absorb the alcohol. So they go and get pizza, and they assume that this clown's wearing a Halloween costume. So when they see him in the street, they don't really think anything of it. But then he turns up in the pizzeria and he starts harassing them. So this is one of two standout scenes for me in the film. In the pizzeria, the slow building of tension while the two women are harassed by this silent clown. His creepy antics, like when he buys Dawn a plastic ring, and also the way that Tara is slowly courting disaster by making fun of him, by making fun of art. That's all brilliant. That's a great scene. There's a lot of tension in that. It's very well done. And the clown art, he gets kicked out. And then the two friends find later that their tires have been slashed. So they're trying to get out of that situation, and Dawn realizes that she has to piss, so she calls her sister to come and pick them up. In the meantime, she heads into a building to use this disgusting shit-colored toilet, this bathroom in there. She gets let in by a shady janitor who's doing some fumigation there or something, I don't know. So anyway, that's all good. It's all good stuff. It's all pretty basic. I quite enjoy it. Art grabs Tara, who's waiting in the car, and then the rest of the film, really, you could describe it scene by scene, but to sum it up would be quicker. The rest of the film is Art attacking the janitor of the building, Dawn Tara, janitor's friend who turns up, Dawn's sister, Veronica Hayes, who turns up and whose face Art chews off before he kills himself when the police arrive. So that was a good way that they came into the end of this film with having Art kill himself. I really didn't expect him to do that. I thought this is the start of a franchise, so when Art put a gun in his mouth and killed himself, I wasn't really expecting that. So I mentioned there were two standout scenes. The other one, apart from the pizzeria, is the notorious hacksaw death, where Dawn wakes up after she's been sedated by Art, and Art has Tara upside down. He saws her in half, starting in a very uncomfortable place, basically between the legs, and then going down to the head. All of this is an excuse for gore, really, and for the director to do practical effects, which is fine because he does them extremely well. The gore in this looks great. The blood looks great. Art the Clown uses hacksaws, syringes, a scalpel, and the gun in this film. He uses the gun when Dawn gets the upper hand on him. The gun part I liked. Some people don't think slashers should use guns, but I liked it. I read somewhere that when the film was new and it just came out, there was a guy watching this in a cinema, and then when Art pulled the gun, some other guy said really loud, "This is bullshit," because he was disgusted by it. But I think the unpredictability of this character is what makes the franchise good. This goes to the heart of why Terrifier is good. It's unpredictable. Art doesn't follow any sort of slasher code. Neither do the films. You know, the woman who you think is going to be the final girl will get killed off abruptly. But Art cheats by pulling out a gun when he's in trouble, etc. And also, you can't really predict his antics. He'll start riding around on a little tricycle, or getting out a horn, or some clown equipment. All of that's very unpredictable. It makes the franchise unique. It makes it very watchable. I'm excited for Terrifier 3, which I'm hoping to see on opening night. In terms of the gore, is it too much? For some, yes. I think the gore is too much for some. I've seen a lot of blood and guts in films, but the hacksaw scene in this did test me. That was savage. It's not funny gore like in, say, Peter Jackson's Brain Dead or Shaun of the Dead or something like that. It's visceral, it's grungy, it's gungy, it's kind of mean-spirited. It's trying to push the envelope and make you uncomfortable. The upshot of all that is that if you actively seek out horrible films, which I occasionally do, it's brilliant. There's another character I didn't mention, which is a cat lady character who's squatting in the building where most of the film happens. That character's a bit cheesy, but I appreciated it. She has some good lines. She says something like, about Art the Clown, she says something like, "He thinks what he is doing is funny because he's laughing, but they aren't laughing because they're all dead." I thought that was a good line. And in the end, she adds something to the atmosphere and dies in an entertaining way. There's a part where this woman is holding Art, and Art's sucking his thumb. That's very creepy. It's hard to tell if the clown is just pretending to have feelings to earn her trust, or if she's managed to bring out something of his personality, his previous personality, before he started this killing spree, something like that. I don't know. A lot of the appeal of this film really is that you don't know why the clown Art the Clown is doing what he's doing. You don't know. He's just out in this spree. He's just killing everyone. He's a sadist. He's a lunatic. You don't know why he's doing it, and I hope that they don't explain this too much in the upcoming films. I don't want to find out really specifically what his name was, stroke is, or you know, I don't want to see the house where he grew up, or find out that he was a politician or a doctor or something specific. I like the mystery. I do assume that he had something to do with the circus, so maybe they could just leave that in as a vague clue. But anyway, so at the end of this film, Art's in the morgue. He's dead. He's deleted himself. He's in a body bag, and he rises up out of the body bag, and he's resurrected. He didn't know he would be resurrected when he shot himself, but he comes back. He's resurrected by some sort of evil entity, and that leads us into the sequel, where we get a supernatural Art the Clown who can get away with doing more things because he knows he won't be killed, or if he's killed, he'll come back. So that raises the stakes for the sequels. Like I said, I'm very excited for Terrifier 3. If you haven't seen the first Terrifier, I'd get on that. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Just think it's a great film. I know that it's rough around the edges, but I give a lot of props to the people who made this on such a low budget, managed to make such an entertaining film. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. I'm always open to recommendations from other people, especially for horror films, slasher films, anything vaguely similar to Terrifier 2. Please leave the names of those films in the comments below. Thanks very much. I'll see you soon.